Okay, we are on and we are live and we're recording too. So I'm going to pause. Okay, first
Can I
off,
just say one thing? I think I saw Gina Hansen on here, so I just wanted to say hey.
Yeah. So there's some other Virginians on here too.
It is good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, it's been a long time.
It has been.
By the way, you're curious, wonder why is Anna not up here with Rick and I? It's because this is the boys club and we make the girls go into another room. No, I'm just kidding. So in any case, welcome aboard. Special night tonight. Normally would not be here, but due to some pretty interesting circumstances, I'm here and I'm happy to be here. So we get to interview Rick and Anna in person. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves and go through some history of, how we know each other, which is like I did not meet Rick and Anna at the same time, different times, but in different circumstances. But here we're all three together. They've become some of my life's absolute best friends. I mean, I could go on and on about the stories, but just the stuff they've done for me, driving the miles and miles, going out of their way to help me out, like an event up in New York City and Manhattan one time, and a wedding in London, Ontario, while they were on vacation. Okay, so these are the kind of folks they are. And I want you to really, guys, just take notes. Get your pens and pencils out and take notes. They do something called house hacking, which is something I personally don't teach. My first property was a house hack, but that's what they've been doing to build their nest egg in their portfolio. But I'm going to let them tell you about that. So without further ado, Anna and Rick, welcome aboard.
All right. Well, Rick, do you want to introduce yourself first, or do you want me to go first?
Go ahead. You go first.
Okay. Well, I'm Anna Jenkins, and I have known Gary for quite a while. We met through coaching, actually, when we were in Craig Proctor coaching together years ago. And I started investing in my 20s, and I bought a duplex when I was in the military in Norfolk, and I turned that into a triplex because I put an apartment over the garage. And that was kind of like the beginning of house hacking, even though I didn't know it was called house hacking back then, which it wasn't. But the idea is I just found an opportunity that I actually had a crazy mom growing up who was also an investor, and I didn't want to have a mortgage. I didn't want to have to pay to live in a house. I wanted somebody else to pay for it. So that's kind of how we started. And then after the military, I got into real estate. I say this because so I was the #1 agent at our Keller Williams office, and Rick was #2, and so he was always in competition with me, and I had no idea. But so I say that because we were successful agents, and then we decided once we kind of became empty nesters that we needed to plan for retirement, and we knew real estate, so that was what we needed to do. So we started getting heavy into real estate. And we did it in the way that we're going to show you, because in the Fredericksburg, Virginia area, it was very, very hard to cash flow. And we kind of like to cash flow. So that was kind of our start. So we now own our own brokerage. We started Home Dream Realty about 7 years ago when we didn't find a property manager that we liked. And so we wanted actually, our clients to be called back. We wanted to be called back ourselves on our own property. And so that's very important. Communication is key in property management and follow-up, definitely, whether it be in real estate or property management. And so we wanted to make that happen. And we said, you know what, we did good as agents. We can do good as property managers too. So that's what we did. So Rick, want to add to that?
Yeah, it's very similar path since Anna and I have been together. The only thing that it was a little bit different for me is I got laid off. I was affected by the 2007, 2006, 2007 recession, I guess you want to call it that. And that's when I started my real estate career. I was marketing, advertising, worked for Kodak, worked for Fortune 100 companies doing marketing programs. And I got my license in 2007. And for the first 5 to 6 years, I was helping real estate investors buy investment property. And I was watching them, learning them from them. And I had my own personal residence, but I didn't have any investment property. And as Anna said, in 2013, that's when the light bulb went off. I kind of had a midlife crisis of, oh my gosh, I've been helping people and I don't really have a retirement plan except for Social Security and my primary home that I'm occupying. And that's not a cash flow. That's a big cash expense. And so that's when we just started doing everything. I mean, Anna mentioned opening up our own brokerage, but we also opened up a real estate investment group we call Fred Ria. That was part of our, taking every year we would take these steps to grow our business and to really hone our own craft, but then try to help others grow their craft. And so it's been a wild ride, and a lot of our principles actually we didn't have a ton of money. We had some money, of course, but we didn't have a ton of money. And so all of our principles are based on making sure we make cash flow on all of our properties. And so we're going to take you through a couple case studies and how we did it.
And if I could interject just a second, guys, one thing, please write this down. If you listen to what they were saying, they've got a big production team. They have their own brokerage company called a production team. They have property management, okay? And we're going to be launching that in the next few months across the entire network. We've already got a few people that have it on a small scale. They have an investor group. Okay, and by the way, guys, how many people are in your investor group?
Oh, gosh.
300 and some or so.
Okay, now, Anna, when you started that, it was February of 2000, I can't remember the year. You did the initial launch,
17.
And I remember, yeah, 17. I remember you put it out there on Friday night, right? Yeah, and by Sunday night, you had 48 people.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's
Okay.
actually when we weren't charging. And then what we did was when we became members of National RIA, we actually started charging a little bit. We only charged $70 a year for them to get the National RIA benefits and stuff like that. But it was enough to at least get more serious members. That's the thing. So the quality of the meetings got better. And before COVID hit, we were actually at a point, we have over 300 members and stuff, but not all of them were coming. But we were probably getting 40 to 60 people at our venue before COVID hit, and we were looking for a larger location. So, and then COVID happened and we went all online. And what really was awesome about going online is just like what we're doing now. We were able to go virtual, and we'll talk about more of that in our presentation, but we're able to go virtual. But we were also, with the investor group, we're able to get speakers, big speakers from all over, and they don't have to fly in or do anything. They just have to show up for an hour. So it's really great. So.
And would you say being persistent and patient was a key factor in the success of your investor group over time?
I think it's just, I would say one of the key things is just learning to adapt and look for opportunities and look for changes and weigh things are up, and it'll happen. Yeah, you have to be patient, but it does build on itself, and it'll happen.
Awesome. Okay. And by the way, guys, I want to at the end when we're done, if Rick and Anna are okay, I don't mind staying on a few minutes and you guys just, fire away. I mean, this is your time to get here right from people who are doing exactly what we're teaching. So, and they're good people too. So
yeah, we're totally open for questions at the end and everything too, or during, we kind of do this together. So I'll watch the chat also. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and then I'll kind of interject as we're going along. Or if I think that we're going to hit it, then I'll wait. But then we'll also definitely answer questions at the end too. Cool. Definitely. So, okay. All right. So should we go ahead? Should I share my screen?
Yes, share your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go to this. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So this is actually our investor group. So we'll say in the beginning we didn't have a super cool logo like that, but we created it very quickly.
Thank you, Fiverr.
Do what? Fiverr, yes,
yeah,
definitely. Definitely. So we actually, our main thing was, and why we showed this as our first slide is because Gary has talked about you guys doing investor groups. And so our tagline is achieving financial independence through real estate, through networking, education, support, leadership, promoting professionalism and standards of excellence in our industry. The whole thing here is we wanted to provide a group that didn't, at first we were free. And then we didn't want it to be really costly, but we just, like I said, we found charging a little bit, we were able to get those benefits to people, but then also the quality of the meetings got better. So, all right, here's our contact info. If you guys wanted to do a screenshot or whatever, and I can pull this up at the end too. We're happy to help you. We can answer questions. You can email me, you know, whatever you'd like to do. But then you'll also see our website for our real estate business and our property management, also our investor group. And the bottom one is actually the link to our short-term rental in Florida. So, hey, if you want to, you know, make a reservation, we're booked actually until May, which we only have a couple weeks in May available and a couple in June. So, and we've already got, you know, rentals into or stays into next year. So you got to be quick on that one. Okay, Rick, want to take it away?
Yeah, so we kind of gave you a verbal summary of how we did it. And I like to, you know, the analogy I like to think of as a ladder. And so as Anna said, you know, we started with Keller Williams. You know, she started 5 years ahead of me, but from that, our paths came across. And that's when we started having these heart-to-hearts. We went to Keller Williams Family Reunion. We actually got inspired by a book called Hold: How to Buy and Sell Real Estate for the Long Term. And so it was one of those things that just taught us how we, how to even think about buying investment property. And from there in 2014, I believe it was, maybe 2013, we opened up our brokerage. And we bought our first investment property in 2013. And that was a great find. And we're going to show that and case study it here. But it was an amazing property to start off with because we immediately hit a grand slam on that one. Shortly thereafter, after opening up our own brokerage, we opened up our own property management division. Today, we manage over 100 properties. And we started tweaking our model. We were focused originally on long-term annual renewals, and we shifted to medium-term rentals. And that actually became something that we've expanded. We've gone from one home that was a medium-term rental, renting out the rooms, to two. And then, of course,
we mentioned more about this too. So
yeah. And then we started Fred Ria in 2017, and we continued to add to our portfolio at least two homes a year it was our goal. Last year we added 3. And then of course we started our short-term rental business in 2020 during COVID. Fred Ria, what it means is it stands for Fredericksburg Real Estate Association, and Fredericksburg is Fred, short for Fredericksburg. So that's what Fred and Ria mean. But we're thinking of adapting it, since we've gone virtual, to something that like Florida Real Estate Development or Directions or something like that. Since it doesn't mean a lot to, Fred doesn't mean, it's kind of universal. We can apply it to the US. So that's kind of a little bit of our story and our journey and how we kind of took these, one step at a time to grow our business into investing. And eventually, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Gary or Rick, since I'm sharing my screen, I can't actually see the chat. So if you see people pop some questions up there, just keep it in mind, okay?
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
And so I think we're ready for the next slide. So house hacking can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I was the type of person, I came from a very private background. Everything was a secret in my family. And so I valued my privacy, and I did not want to share my house with anybody. It was very hard at first, but being a little bit adventuresome actually helps me get me out of my shell. And so our definition of house hacking has actually shifted, but it's really helped us to keep our expenses low and live free most of the time. A lot of people, think about, doing their W-2 job and doing it very well and actually increasing their pay. We were doing our our regular job selling real estate very well, but that's when we went horizontal and started looking at ways to invest. And this is how we've done it through house hacking. So our premise is to buy a single family home and either rent out the rooms or parts of the house so that it cash flows. And so we'll pay all of the mortgage and even then some. And so our goal has always been at least $200. And they don't have a lot of multifamilies or duplexes or triplexes in Fredericksburg. So we were looking for opportunities within Fredericksburg to take a single family home that might have a finished basement and a kitchen in the basement or something like that and make it into a makeshift duplex. And so that's how we were able to make it cash flow in Fredericksburg.
All right, so types of house hacking. So like you're saying, he can rent it out by the rooms. You could get a multifamily home. Like we own a quadplex. We bought a fourplex last year. We also bought a duplex last year. You could have it as an income suite. And that could be like a mother-in-law suite or, and there's also an ADU, that's an auxiliary dwelling unit, which we've also done that. We've actually done everything but flip because we have held. So, with the ADU, what that is that could be like a garage apartment, like what I was saying. So an auxiliary dwelling unit. And in California, maybe Gina can talk to this, they've turned sheds into like little houses and things. And so you could live in your flip, which we kind of did, but we just held it. We just didn't flip it. We are buying holds. And so we did the work on a lot of our properties while we were living in them. And then work provided. We actually even tried out like having our first one had 3 kitchens in it, so it ended up doing three units, which we'll talk about. And so one of the thoughts is that we would have someone cook and clean for us in exchange for their unit, but that one didn't work so well because she wasn't a good cleaner. But that's okay; that can happen also because I had it work very well. When the downturn happened, I had an apartment in my basement, and I had an au pair that we rented the apartment out, and she took care of my daughter and met her after school while I had to work harder to make more money during those downtimes. So that happens too. Anything you want to add to this, Rick?
No, just the live and flip. I call it live and rent because that's what we ended up doing. We lived in all of them pretty much. Well, not all of them, but at the very beginning, we lived in all of them. And as we were converting them, we would then, as we found the next opportunity, we'd move out and rent it out. So live in, rent.
The one thing I'd also say about living in your properties, and I've actually even heard this about living in your short-term rentals or whatever, you really discover about the properties and what it takes. Like one of the things, and we'll talk about it, that you really need to think about is noise in a multifamily unit or whatever. And so if you're living there, you'll figure out what that is real quick. All right.
So our premise here is really talk to you a little bit about house hacking, share our case studies with you, talk about some of the frequently asked questions that we get asked a lot, what we've seen as the advantages and disadvantages, and how you can get started in house hacking. Because anybody, like Anna and I were reflecting, anybody can do this. A lot of people, they end up buying a home, but they just never realize that they can convert that home into a rental unit. And really everybody should do it. I'm trying to teach my daughter this, and it's just little bites. I'm just sending her little bits of information to help her convert her, because I really feel like this is what people should do in order to gain financial freedom.
Well, like for instance, I was telling you, I actually bought my first duplex. I bought my first one when I was in the military, and I wasn't an officer. I was an enlisted at that time, an E5, and so it wasn't like I made a lot of money. And then I ended up refinancing it actually to then build that garage apartment. And then, silly me though, I sold it later, even though I made a great profit. I shouldn't have sold it, but like I said, anybody can do this. That's the whole point. Okay.
I can't see the screen. We're looking at the chat and I'm laughing.
Oh, what's going on?
Dana Truman's on.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to, maybe I can like get some arrows and try to find him. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I can go ahead. So what the screen said is who is this for? So it's for people, like we said, it's for anybody. You know, you could be working a full-time job. Somebody who would like to have extra money so that you could take vacations and travel, or not have a mortgage at all. And so maybe you need an exit strategy for retirement. And you could be thinking about real estate, but not have enough money, like to pay cash or whatever. You hear this. And so, and then also if they're renting, you could actually get into this, and we're going to talk about it, but with a personal loan, that's the whole thing, is you get into with a personal loan with low interest, and you can get up to 4 units that way, but you don't have to. You could get a house with 3 kitchens and make it 3 units. Rick, did you want to add anything to this?
No. So this is how we got into it. We came out 2013. I actually bought a foreclosure, and we experimented with, I put 5% down with a conventional loan, and we were owner occupants, and we were just renting out a bedroom on Airbnb. So you can do this and live in your home. And, the whole premise for us at the time, we were trying to reduce our expenses. So we were looking at it as travel money, like our cruise money. So we were just looking at, we didn't think like this was our big plan until we got really into it and we started looking bigger down the road. But honestly, a lot of people can get into, we bought one of our properties. The other thing that we did that was a little bit different is Anna would buy a home in her name and I would buy a home in my name. And so I would put 5% down, and because Anna was in the Navy, she could use her VA loan. And so we did that. We alternated getting loans in our different names. And then we would just add each other to the loan or transfer it to an LLC after it closed. But again, the whole premise was each step of the way, we would buy a house, very little money down, and then we would convert it to a multi-unit, and then have the roommates be able to pay, or in this case, different apartments pay for the different, the entire mortgage and allow us to cash flow.
So Gary was saying that a lot of people on this call, this could be for you, but it also could be for your clients too. So you want to be thinking about this in different ways too. If you are directly working with people, and they can buy houses just like this and do the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, Anna, Rob Lane, a fellow Virginian's asking, did you get the VA-FF back after you refinanced the VA loan?
FF. Funding fee?
Yeah, the VA funding fee.
Oh, I'm a disabled vet, actually, so I don't pay a funding fee.
Oh, so you're 100% permanent?
No, I'm not 100%. You can get it.
Oh, that's right, 20%.
It's actually 10%, but I'm 50% disabled, so I qualify.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so if you're over 10%, you can actually, they waive the funding fee.
I'll use my wife's VA then for all these hacks. She's disabled, I'm not.
There you go. But, that's the thing is doing, alternating back and forth, because why we did that is you're going to find if you get into this and you like it, it's working, they're going to cap you at like 4 or 5 max. But they're going to start asking questions at 4. I'll tell you that. So we had to later then, we had to switch to commercial loans because, they're just going to stop you. That's the whole thing. That's why we say we haven't lived in all of them, because we ended up switching to commercial loans later.
Well, we lived in each one of these for about a year. That was one of the questions that was asked in the chat. So we lived in each one of them for about a year as we converted it to multifamily. So the first case study you'll see was about a year. And then we moved to the second one that we bought with Anna's VA loan. And we lived in, as we converted that and updated that, we lived there for a little under a year, but it was close enough kind of thing. And then we bought a third one and kind of just, again, did the ladder back and forth. And it was a year each time, that we would transfer. But again, because
6 months between, 6 months or a little bit, because we were alternating. So
we would alternate. And then the other thing too, again, by putting it in different names, because she had income and I had income, we could both buy it in our own names, and they wouldn't question it, even though we might be moving in 6-8 months, because the next loan was in her name.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, so I was just trying to remember this case study. So this is the first one of the first homes that we bought, and it was an amazing opportunity because it actually had three kitchens in it already, and it didn't have enough bathrooms to support the 3 kitchens, so we had to add another bathroom to it. But we bought it with an owner occupant loan, and it was a short sale. And what was unique about this one is, short sales back in that day, maybe you don't, but short sales were very painful, 5, 6, 7 months waiting to hear back from the bank. Well, the home actually became vacant, and there was some flood damage. The sump pump overflowed and got everything wet. And the deal we struck with the agent and with the owner was that we would inhabit the home. Ann and I would live in the home and bring it back so it would qualify for a regular loan. And so I put down 5% conventional loan on this one. We did the trash out, we changed toilets, we repaired everything, put the electric back on.
It should be in your inbox.
And we just did all this thing, and there was quite a bit of work, but it was worth it. In the end, we ended up getting 3 different units out of this single family home. The upstairs, and I don't know if it's on the next slide, but the upstairs is a 3-bed, 2-bath, and then there's 2 separate kitchens and 2 separate bathrooms in the basement. And literally, they have their own entrances, so there's 2 separate units in the basement.
That was the one that also had the garage in the back too, 2-car
Yeah,
garage.
it had a garage.
So guys, I stayed in the upstairs and I also stayed in the downstairs.
Whenever Gary would come visit, we would tell him, we're living upstairs, we're living downstairs.
Yeah.
So but when we first lived there, the only inhabitable part was the upstairs. But again, there was a lot of different projects that we had to do. I mean, but it was just little steps. We didn't have a ton of money, but we added little things and improvements along the way. We had 1 washer and dryer for the entire house. Well, we learned quickly that it added value to put that washer and dryer on the main level, so everybody got their own washer and dryer. And so we learned by living in different units that as we moved to the basement, it actually got cold in the wintertime, and we needed to provide supplemental heat. So that's when we learned all about installing mini splits. And again, these all take money, but because we had money coming in, we were living upstairs and then fixing the lower level and then moving downstairs. We realized we could rent out upstairs for $1,500, and they were essentially paying the mortgage. And so the extras, as we were upgrading it, making it better, we could really improve it so that we could have 2 separate apartments in the basement. And we probably all total put probably about $60,000 into the house, but that's over a couple years over time. So here's some pictures.
There it is.
The upstairs, and that's when we lived in it. And we have now kind of turned it into a medium term. I call it a corporate rental. We're targeting traveling nurses, and so we furnished it and we're renting it out, the bedrooms by the room.
Still have the 2 units downstairs.
We still have the 2 units. Yes, correct.
And we may actually rent out the garage separately too. Who
We'll
knows?
rent out everything. Next slide. So here's apartment B, and this is its own apartment. This is like a studio apartment. It has its own kitchen. We added the bathroom in the middle picture there. And so it's one of those things where it's kind of one big room. And so we use bookcases to kind of separate things. And so I think it was Susan that asked a question about zoning. And so I'll throw out my little opinion about zoning.
Can I talk on this?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So the thing is, you need to check in your area. Okay, so like for instance, in our area, one thing that could apply is occupancy. So like down in Fredericksburg City, which we do have a unit there, we have to be mindful that you cannot have more than 3 unrelated people. And that's because it's a college town, okay? But outside of the city, that rule doesn't apply. And so we also say, when you talk about zoning and different things like that, so it all depends. Like one of the things that you really have to keep in mind, because we've talked about kitchens. Now this house had all 3 kitchens in it already. This house was actually owned by the superintendent of schools, and why he had the 3 units was because he had an adult mentally handicapped daughter, and she also had a caregiver. Okay. And so that's why there wasn't a second bathroom in the basement, because they used the same bathroom, but they had different kitchens, things like that, I guess. I don't know completely. But this one already had that. So in our area, it is legal to put in mother-in-law suites, things like that, but you can't separate, like you can't do 2 electric meters, because then it would be called a duplex, but you can have mother-in-law suites. And so those are the different things. So you're going to have to check in your area about what is, because your area may or may not allow auxiliary dwelling units. Okay. Like for instance, this is the garage, right? And we had thought about putting an apartment in this garage, but the problem is there's a very large hill there that slopes up in this area. So the problem is sewer. Is trying to tie into the sewer. You have to have an ejector pump and all this. So this would not work. We never did it because it wasn't cost effective. That's the thing. So now.
I'm telling them on the phone. If you're a tenant and you have an emergency,
I mean, so we didn't do it because it wasn't cost effective. So when it comes to that, what's important is why we say kitchens is because your cost is going to come into putting plumbing in a basement. If it's the basement that you're developing into a mother-in-law suite or whatever, that's what's going to come. So if you have a bathroom or if you have a laundry room, we've turned laundry rooms into kitchens before, you need a drain. That's the whole thing. And then what you also have to do that you have to check into, it's very important, is you have to check your electrical panel to make sure that it can support an extra dryer, an extra stove, a microwave if you're going to put a microwave in it, that type of thing. But so those are the different types of things you want to look for. Rick, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so this particular house, what was great about it, because it already had the 3 kitchens, the things that we had to put on this house was supplemented because we had natural gas as a fuel source. And so it didn't stress the panel because we weren't using electric to heat the entire house. It was actually heated by gas. And so that's how we were able to expand and add washer and dryers to all the units and things like that. There was a question that was asked about, how do you split utilities and how do we handle?
Let's talk about that at the end, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll definitely talk about, because we have a slide that actually talks about that. Okay,
you want to show the next? So this is apartment C. This is the smallest of the 3 units. And again, we just try to put the nice touches on there to make it a complete little place.
I slept in that bed right there.
This one.
It's a little mini kitchen, a little mini stove. I mean, this is where we were putting our housekeeper or au pair that we were trying out for a period of time that didn't clean as well as we would have liked.
See, they didn't know I was a housekeeper and au pair.
But you can see we try to put the nice touches on there. So, but anyway, the next slide shows the deal breakdown. And so we bought it for $190 as a short sale. We put down 5% down, and our mortgage payment was $1,170. So, the upstairs now is rented and furnished. We rent out the rooms, and then today we still rent out separately the 2 downstairs unit. So that's our gross monthly income coming in for the 3 rooms for rent, plus the 2 separate apartments that are down in the basement. And what we've done, and actually to this day, we still do it on all our places, is we charge a utility fee, and that covers water, sewer, trash, lawn care, and also the cleaning of the common area spaces. So each tenant pays $100. And then the 2 downstairs apartments pay 25% of the gas and electric. And we started doing the percentage of space, gas and electric, just so they can feel a little bit of the fluctuation. It's not a lot, because, the electric bill, might be a high of, $150 in the summertime. And so they might be each paying like $34, $35, $40 a piece. It's not a lot, but it's enough that they can feel it, and we get to recoup some of that money back. And the utility fee truly covers most of all of our costs. We're not losing money because we have 5 people. And most people understand the one thing we're doing that's a little unique is we're providing the Wi-Fi. So the streaming services are provided. Well, when I say streaming, the ability to access Wi-Fi, they subscribe to their own streaming channel, but we're providing the high-speed Verizon gigabyte service so that they can access it from wherever they want, bedrooms or the family room, things like that. And that's included in the utility fee. And what's great about some of these utility fees, the ones that are variable are the gas, the electric, and the water sewer. And the rest is fairly predictable. It's flat fee for the trash every month. It's a flat fee for the Verizon Fios every month. We know what the lawn care is going to cost every month. We know what the cleaning is going to cost. So we know it doesn't fluctuate. So we can really get a good idea of what our monthly expenses are going to be, as well as our profit. We just, try to keep it all fully occupied. That's the key.
Yeah. Hey
So
guys,
one
look,
thing I would also add, and because I want to make sure that you guys understand it. So the 3 rooms upstairs, those are rented on a short-term basis. So it's a minimum of 3 months. So that's what we call a mid-term rental. Okay. So it'd be like a traveling nurse, or it could be a professional that's coming there for a contract, or something like that. So that's a minimum of 3 months, but they can also stay longer. We have another house that we're going to show, and we've had a person that's been there for 3 years, and she's happy. She's actually the mom of the house, and we give her a credit because she interviews the new roommates coming in and shows the room, and so she loves it. And the downstairs in this house is actually long-term tenants, so that's why they are actually contributing to the gas and electric. So we want in our other houses, in all the long-term tenant houses, we do split it out according to the square footage. That's the thing, because most of the time the upstairs tenant has control of the thermostat, and that's why we have supplemented heating and air with mini splits or something if it's a basement unit, or at least looking for an alternate heat source. The cooling isn't as important as the alternate heat. So if it has a fireplace or a wood stove or something like that, you're okay. But if not, you're going to want to provide space heaters. So that's how we break out the utilities there. But as you can see, we were saying in the beginning that we like to, cash flow at least $200 a month. This cash flow is over $2,500 a month. And so over $30,000 a year on this house. And that's how we like to roll. So.
well, the thing is,
On that?
for everybody watching, obviously we have agents literally coast to coast, places like California, New York, where it's very expensive, and places like, mostly the southern states that are just not that expensive. This technique can work anywhere, but just remember what Anna was talking about. They did their research, they understood the zoning ahead of time, they looked at the current circumstances of the house, and their superintendent was already using it with 3 kitchens and essentially 3 units. So the bottom line is, a lot of people have limiting beliefs that you really can't invest in certain areas because it's so expensive. And here's a perfect example of what you can do with a property in the right area. Just house hack. This is house hacking on times 10, and look at that net. I mean, that's a pretty close to a true net, because they're charging $100 a month, right? For gas, electric, all that stuff, and cleaning and lawn care. I mean, there's not much left, So in any case, for those of you who are looking to buy a property now, you're thinking you might want to get a 5-unit, maybe consider a single family home, but you can get paid 5 times a month from 5 different people,
One other thing before I go to the next slide that I want to key in on is we have found 2 things that we found on our rooms for rent situations. we actually put in that utility fee that we have the house cleaned every 2 weeks. That's a cleaning of the common spaces and the shared bathrooms. So the upstairs in this house is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. So 2 rooms share a bathroom. And that helps to keep roommates happy. When the place is clean, you know, then they're not fighting over who's cleaning it or whatever. The other thing is that I just lost it.
But we're gonna talk about
Go to
some.
the next one. I'll remember it on the next one. Oh, yeah, we'll remember it on the next one. There you go. Number 2, we're doing the same thing.
Okay, so this was a house that we originally intended for us to be on our office. It's on a busy road, and we thought, you know, hey, let's put our office there and live there. And so we did that for about 6-8 months, and then we got this tremendous offer to move our office and get more rent for our place. And so we moved our office out of this home and converted it into basically renting out by the bedrooms. But what we didn't realize at the time, and again, these are all, I'll call it baby steps kind of thing. We had a living room and we had a family room. Well, you know that in today's modern family, who really has a living room and who really has a family room? They usually just have one room. So we converted, in our case, our family room into a bedroom, and that's what Anna's showing that. So these are and we added a bathroom.
This is
And
the
so
bathroom.
this was originally a three bed, 2 bath home, and we converted it into a 4-bed, 3 bath home. And then the next big thing that we did, again, every year we did little things to bring more cash flow. We created, there was a detached garage in the back of the house, and that was originally going to be where we would stay. And we made it nice, and you can see that you can see the original garage doors. You know, we replaced them with insulated garage doors. There's a nice living space. It's a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, detached garage, and it's kind of our home away from home when we go back, you know, and travel, and then we rent it out as an Airbnb when we're not traveling or when we are traveling. So you can see a couple of the pictures of the family room as well as the kitchen. And what we try to do, because we have 4 people living in this house, 2 of the rooms share a bathroom, and the other 2 have their own private bathroom. And we try to make it nice so that it's comfortable. There's plenty of seating, but we also try not to have people feel cramped, even though there's 4 people living in the house. And this is the key things. We look for friction points. So one of the friction points that you'll see, and one of the advantages, we look for parking, plenty of parking, so nobody's struggling to find a parking space. Plenty of cabinetry and dedicated space. Everybody gets dedicated cabinets for their dry goods. Plenty of refrigerator space. We actually add 2 refrigerators, 2 full-size refrigerators. So each tenant gets a half a fridge and a half a freezer. And we just add these things to avoid, you know, friction. And again, the same utility fee applies. Everybody pays $100. And in this case, we've absorbed the electric in the cost. And so we're not splitting out the electric charges, but everybody pays the $100 electric fee or the utility fee. And again, we do the gigabyte high-speed streaming at the home. We do the cleaning every 2 weeks, the lawn care. They just live here. It's great. And you can see kind of the numbers. We purchased it for $195. We did the garage conversion. Again, after a couple of years of living there, for $75,000, and added a full bath. And our mortgage payment, you know, is we have a HELOC on it that we took out, but between the mortgage payment and then the rental income, we're clearing about $3,000 a month in cash flow after all expenses. And it's just been, again, a small, steady increases to increase cash flow and making it nice. So we first started off when the rooms were all not furnished. We were providing just our own furniture there. And slowly what we did was we upgraded the furniture, or if the room didn't have furniture, we added furniture. So we went to IKEA, and I became the assembly man for IKEA and put all the furniture together. So it's just providing clean, quality housing, and it's consistent. So we don't have to rely on showing a vacant house or vacant room to a traveling person who wants a short-term place to stay for 6, 8, 12 months. And some people, in this case, like we had James, he's been with us for over a year, and he moved here from New York, and he can easily afford his own place. But he's elected just to continue to, be a part of the family. Yeah. So
But in
next,
our area also, it works very well for commuters. Like one of the other people that's in this house, his family lives in North Carolina, and he works up at Quantico as a police officer. And so he commutes back to North Carolina every week when his shift is over for the week, and then he comes back. So that's what other people do. We've had a few people that have done that. The other thing is the garage apartment here. I just want to kind of give you some numbers. So this right now, a traveling nurse is staying there now. Before that, it was actually somebody that was building a home, this crazy market. So this is another thing that you can do too, is you can have these furnished spaces and put it out there for somebody building a home, the 6 months, 8 months or whatever. But this rents for $18.95, $19.95 a month. I mean, that's great. So, okay.
Hey, I have a question if I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question. So, like, how are you getting corporate rentals on this? I mean, what venues are you? I mean, you talked about
We're actually
Airbnb and.
gonna talk about that in another slide. So we will definitely do that.
All right.
We're gonna do this last one, and then we will get to that.
All right. I'll wait. Thank you.
No worries.
so Anna, you want to talk about your baby?
Oh. So, okay. So the thing is my dream is to always have a house on the water, right? But I will tell you, the darn thing had to pay for itself too. So, COVID actually helped us in a way of making our business even more virtual than it was. So we were all about electronics before COVID happened. But what happened is when COVID happened, then our office, we had an office, but our lease was coming due in April. So you guys kind of see the time frame when all this happened in February, March, and then we had a decision to make because we sent our office manager to work from home. And I mean, our applications were already done online. We were actually already using self-showing lock boxes. I mean, a lot of things happened. So I had my broker's license in Florida for 3 years when it happened because Rick's parents live in Fort Myers Beach and they're elderly. And so we thought that we'd have to take care of them at some point. And so I wanted a house on the water. So I'm like, you know what, let's make this happen. And so we came to Florida and started researching the heck out of the whole Gulf Coast, even over in Jacksonville and everything else. And we found this place. And during that time also though, Airbnb short-term rentals and stuff, I mean, they got hosed in the beginning, but then it just exploded. And so Florida in that area, I'm sorry?
I was just going to say smaller units exploded in a positive way, like ones that were not the big mega houses on the Outer Banks that, had 6 bedrooms. We're talking about small Airbnbs that had 1 or 2 bedrooms did really well.
Gotcha. So this one previously was rented out. So they had actually lived in the downstairs. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath in the downstairs. This is a duplex. And then upstairs is a 3-bedroom, 2 bath. Okay. So they had rented the upstairs out seasonally. And we had looked and we started, being in the downstairs. And then, of course, we're like, wait a minute, we can make more money. And plus, we were kind of going back and forth anyway, because we still had business in Virginia and we were checking that out and things like that, too. And so I said, how can we make the most money out of this house? Because we're house owners, right? And so the seasonal rentals that were happening last year in Florida didn't happen as much. Okay. The Canadians weren't able to come down. And so I should say this year in a sense, because this season's almost over. But so this season, the Canadians weren't able to come down. So what ended up is a lot of Americans traveled, but they wanted shorter terms, like not for 4 months, but they wanted a couple weeks, a week, maximum a month, something like that. And so what we ended up doing, and we had already had the plan before we bought this place that we were going to rent out a couple rooms upstairs. So we have 2 rooms that are rented out in the upstairs part long term, okay, over 6 months. The one thing that I did remember that I wanted to say is another thing that we do is we offer a 30-day trial period to our prospective tenants in the roommate situation, because we want happy people, and that'll also kind of alleviate any roommate tension too, because you also want to get rid of crazies if crazy shows up. So this one was rented out long-term. 2 bedrooms are rented out long-term upstairs. And then we started renting out the downstairs in November as a short-term rental. And it has been booked, and I mean booked every day. We had last week or something, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we had someone cancel because they opened it up to where FEMA was going to start giving the shots for the vaccinations. And they canceled that day, and it was booked again that night for those 2 weeks. And so, I mean, it's just been very consistent, and we already have bookings every month except August. And then all into February and March are already booked for next year. So this is the downstairs short-term rental. So it is on the water. You can paddleboard, you can kayak right off of the beach there. We didn't really want to be on the beach because I don't know if anybody experiences Florida beaches, but they're barrier islands. So sometimes the traffic is really bad. And we just didn't want that. So we're actually only 2 miles from the beach. So we have bikes, and we can ride the bikes to the beach. And we're only a mile from what they call historic Dearborn Street, which is like where the restaurants are. And they just had an art festival this past weekend. And so this is the downstairs. And then this is the upstairs where we have 2 of the rooms rented out. And then we maintain a room for ourselves to be able to come back and forth to. And so it definitely ends up paying for itself. This one, I ended up buying this one with my VA loan. And so I bought it with no funding fee, 2.75% interest and no money down. So this one was $700,000. We got it at that time. It was $40,000 under asking. We put about $15,000 into it with furniture and upgrades. We put some panels on this screened-in porch because sometimes the storms can get kind of crazy in the afternoon in August. And then the mortgage is $4,000. A rental income is about $6,150, if not higher. We actually rented out during season at $178 a night, and then off season $143 a night for the downstairs. And then this one has about $1,750 per month cash flow is what this is at. And we're living on the water if we want to, and it's paid for. That's the whole thing.
So you can turn the slide, Anna, but one of the questions that was asked is where is this located? So this is in Florida, of course. It's in Sarasota County, and it's in the city of or town of Englewood, Florida. So Sarasota County.
This is Lemon Bay is what this body of water is, Lemon Bay. And then the barrier island is right there. That's Minnesota Key. And so the ocean's right on the other side of that.
So Lynn and Brian, they posted a couple questions. They're up in South Carolina. So guys, you could do this like Folly Beach, some of those beaches that are more well known, like Myrtle Beach, things like you could do this in North Myrtle Beach, perhaps in certain areas like that. But really, around Charleston, there's some other smaller areas you could do this in. And not have to, I mean, if you want to come to Florida, come on to Florida, because I'm going to make an announcement tonight. Rick and Anna don't know this, but they're adopting me full time. I'm never leaving. This is a great area, guys. But one of the last places in Florida that hasn't been overdeveloped and overrun. So as you might imagine, we're talking about me getting a place down here while I'm here this weekend. So it's that good. So yeah, sorry guys, keep going. Yeah.
So the
That's
next.
all good. Oh, did you want to answer those questions first, or oh no, you already did with that one. All right, let's do this.
So this is kind of our approach. We look at parking, we look at the number of bathrooms. That's a limiting factor. You know, the ideal components is 4 bedrooms. We rent out the rooms. We don't like HOAs. Of all of our properties that we do have, we only have, I think, 1 in an HOA. Colonials work, split foyers work for us. Detached is best, like not a townhouse. We prefer one with a finished basement, but it doesn't have to be. Prefer a finished basement with a separate entrance in the back. That's key. You don't want them to have to go through the front door. Again, we talked about plenty of parking, for every bedroom, there's a car. And so something that's close to town, close to transportation centers, we prefer a home with natural gas, so it's not putting that stress on the electric panel, and public sewer. So we try to avoid the septic and, septic systems. And then we look for second kitchens. We had 2 listings that came on the market just this today that had a second kitchen already, and you run the numbers and we're budgeting X and Y, and we're sending it to our investment group to say, hey, consider this, this is an option. So it's not required. Usually a bathroom is required, at least a bathroom in the basement, but a second kitchen. We started a kitchen with just a microwave, a cooktop, and one of those little toaster ovens, and find enough to get by for the short term, as we saved up enough money and we were able to add a full stove and all the goodies that come with a kitchen.
Yeah, that was in a house that had a wet bar in the basement. So it had a sink, and it was a nice setup, but it didn't have a full kitchen. So at that time, we just, there was a need. That's the thing. People were wanting rentals, and that one is in downtown Fredericksburg. And so we were able to just get by, like you said, with a hot plate, and and there you go, microwave. So
next slide. Right. So here's our list of potential disadvantages that we've lived through. So, living with roommates, you can, it's lack of privacy, but those are the little irritating points. The noise, we've addressed that by improving the soundproofing through Roxol, but noise between the units, whether it's an up and down or side by side, we're very considerate about noise. We have policies in our rules that say quiet hours. We're very much into cleanliness, so we have policies about that. We're strict on that, and we clean it. We clean the shared bathroom. That's one of our things that we do, along with the common areas and some of our medium-term rentals. Some of the other hassles is parking, and we've learned quickly. We actually on our third house we put in a driveway, and it cost us $7,000 to put in another parking pad for the other tenant, but it totally is worth it, because what we do is we do the math and we say, okay, well, if we can get X and we're not having that person on the street, it'll pay for itself in 6 months, 5 months. That's kind of how we think about it, because again, we're buy and hold. We're not here to flip. You're doing different math if you're here to flip, but for us, we're buy and hold, and we plan to hold for the long time, and we try to reduce those irritations. We also have even policies for guest sleepovers and visitors, but only on our medium-term places.
Yeah, the rooms for rent.
Yeah. So anything else to add, Anna?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Sorry. I think I missed it. There you go. Okay, there you go.
So roommates. So how do we find roommates? We first had a lot of success through Craigslist, but we've gotten sort of a reputation now through the traveling nurse sites and also through Facebook Marketplace. And, we still list our home through our rental software called Buildium. We use Buildium as our rental software. So we're advertising and promoting it through Hotpads and Lovely and those different places. But it's one of those things where it's just getting it out there and putting the right set of words. So Anna kind of tees it up, and then I'm kind of the hammer that filters through, because we get a lot of people that are living in hotels that are looking for a cheaper site, and we're not looking for everybody in our medium-term rentals. Our annual rentals, they rent just like that. But our medium-term roommate type of things, you have to find the right combination. Mm-hmm. And you have to be very specific, because one person can poison the whole dynamic of the other roommates. And so that's why we do this 30-day trial period that Anna mentions, and we do short-term leases that are generally 3 months, and then month to month after that. Again, with the ability of, we don't want to trap anybody with that they might spoil the other roommates, and that we just want to give them an easy out. But most people are staying for long periods of time.
The big thing also right now is the way the market is. I've got realtors that know that we have these shorter term furnished places and things. And like, for instance, that garage apartment, that one was, we didn't even get a chance to put it on the market. It was rented out by a traveling nurse before we ever even put it on the market because she heard from someone else. And I already had people that were calling that were building a house, and agent was like, "Oh, I have clients that are building a house. Is that rented?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's already rented." So it's just, and we're not even advertising that one. It just gets rented because of word of mouth. So that's why it's on there. Also, if you develop your relationship with other realtors, if you have these set up, they will rent. That's the thing.
Just to add one more thing to the trial period that was asked on the chat. So the 30-day trial period, we learned that that there's crazies out there. We are very good at screening people. We do the due diligence. We're background, credit, criminal check. We even interview all of our applicants just to make sure what they said is what is on the application, and there's no misunderstanding about some of the rules and things like that. But the 30-day trial we just added within the last year and a half, and it was a culmination of, we've turned it into a benefit to them, but it's really our chance to get rid of the crazies, because and it's just a 30-day trial. When a lease starts on one day, then we start it, the 30 days goes, and they have a chance if they don't feel, we'd say, especially to women, it's different audiences to different people. So to women, we're saying, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't like the other people, the roommates, feel free, just let us know within 30 days, and, we'll refund your security deposit. Make sure you turn the room back into the same condition that we've delivered it to you. And men are not any different than women. Men want to feel safe and feel like they're in a good place as well. So it's just a 30-day trial, and it just gives people kind of that guarantee, that feeling that, I'm not making the wrong decision, and I get a chance to kind of meet these people, and, becomes a new family really for a lot of these people. So ready for the next slide. So here's how we.
These are some frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go over it ready, Pat?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Anna.
So we do charge a security deposit. Security deposit is going to be equal to the rent, and in the cases of the rooms for rent, it's going to be.
Hey guys, somebody's.
I got it. So in the cases of the rooms for rent, then it's actually going to be the rent plus the utility fee. Okay. So we do that. We also make sure that we get that deposit before we write the lease, because we want to make sure that they have the money. We do write a lease. Okay. We already talked about utilities, but it also depends on the cost. You want to figure out what your cost is, but we found that people are comfortable with paying $100 to $150 for a utility fee. But you've got to figure out what your cost is, and you want to make sure it's covered. That's the thing. We do not allow pets. And also, you don't want to say pets, you want to say animals, okay? And so you want to try to not get it down that the emotional or assistance animals, things like that, because you're in a roommate situation in some of this. Now, on our regular units that are by themselves, they can. We say no dogs because we don't want barking because of noise, right? Because if people leave their dog in their house and the dog barks while they're gone or something, that can be very annoying to the other roommates or the other people in the house. But with a roommate situation, we do not like to have animals. That's the thing. So we do not allow couples in the roommate situations. We do not allow couples, and it's only one person per room. So no children, no shared custody, no anything like that. They can have a guest over for one time a month. That's the thing. It has to be, you have to tell your other roommates so that it's very respectful. That's what we say. So those are the sleepovers. The leases on the roommate situations are 3 months, and then month to month. They do got that 30-day trial period. On our other units that are not rooms for rent, they're long-term leases. They're at least a year. So, and then eliminate those friction points, like what we were saying, like in the roommate situations, cleaning the common areas, providing 2 refrigerators, and assigned parking spaces. So, Rick, you want to say anything?
Yeah, there was a question asked about, have you ever had anybody overstay their welcome? And the answer is no. We have had a situation where we actually had two situations where, and they were both drinking related. The tenants in these roommate situations were, they were drinkers, and it didn't mesh well with the other tenants, the other roommates. And so the first one we did was, kind of a 3 strikes and you're out. And it really wasn't even 3 strikes. It was more like 2 strikes. And, he found his way out of the home. We didn't get to that point where we had to push him out, but we gave him an ultimatum that if it happened again, we would push him out. And then the second one was a situation where, again, heavy drinker, and did not know this, didn't show up on an interview, we need to start asking, how many glasses of wine do you have? But no, and again, it's checking in with the other tenants / roommates to see if everything is good and stable, and that's how we're getting our feedback. Because
And I don't want to think, we don't mind if people drink, but if they affect the other roommates, that's the problem. The one gentleman, he was getting violent. He would start screaming, yelling, punching things like that. And so you just can't have that. And so but thankfully we haven't really had that many issues because we do good screening. And so we haven't had that many issues. We've only had 2 in the years that we've been doing this. So, and we actually have more houses than what we're showing you here today too. Okay. Rick, any lessons learned?
Yeah, so make it nice, but don't over improve. So a lot of times at the beginning, Anna and I would say, this is where we're going to live for the rest of our life. When we moved into the basement of Spring Valley, our first investment property, we over improved a shower because, we wanted dual shower heads and we wanted it to be really nice. And so we probably overspent there, and we didn't need to do that. And so we learned quickly that we can't build it for us, but we need to build it for rentability. And so that's the next thing. Tenant selection, that's critical for creating roommate harmony, whether that's in a shared space or whether that's just in an annual space. But that's why we're so strict on how we handle our tenant selection. You can get higher rents for private bathrooms and separate apartments. So that's what you saw with the first example, how we're renting out the basements for higher rents and we actually rent out, like for instance, the one with the master, we charge an extra $100 more for having a private bathroom in their bedroom. We include washer and dryers in all our units to get a better pool of applicants. And we provide plenty of parking, and we assign parking spaces in our shared spaces. We actually assign parking spaces. We talked about taking one full refrigerator and splitting it between 2 people, so each tenant gets 2 pieces of a fridge and splits a freezer. But then we also provide them plenty of space for their dry goods. We're looking for ways to reduce points of friction. So in our shared space addendum, we talk about quiet hours. We've offered headphones for TVs when we know that there might be a little bit of an issue with noise. And sometimes our police officer, he works at night and sleeps during the day. So we're just very in tune with, any points of irritation, and we offer solutions rather than, just ignoring the problem. We always get the fastest gigabyte internet, so nobody's buffering in our homes. And everybody, in today's environment, they're watching TV on their computer, they got headphones in, and so we put in multiple router access points so that they have the ability to connect. And again, we talked about that 30-day trial period and then a 3-month lease to start off with, and then month to month. So we cater to the traveling nurse who typically have a 3-month lease. And but then we're looking for people who will want to stay longer so that we don't have to keep going through the process.
The other thing that we didn't touch on, and you probably saw in the pictures, but with the furnishings, we furnish it with a bed, a nightstand, a lamp, and then a chair for them to sit in, but then also a desk with a chair and a dresser. because we want them to be able to have like their own, place they can watch TV if they want to. They can put the TV on the dresser if they want to. We don't buy them a TV for the bedrooms. We put that in the common areas. And these are again in the roommate situations. But that's how we furnish a bedroom too.
So the couple questions in the chat talked about, how do we do the paperwork? Well, we have them sign a lease, and then we include a shared addendum. And depending upon the space, it's just a shared addendum for the space, and it just kind of outlines some of the things that we've just talked about. We use Buildium as our aggregate rental software, and so we collect rent because we're property managers, but it's the actual website and Buildium that helps us collect that rent. So they can pay online, they only can pay online, or they can deliver it directly to our bank, but we're not physically touching the money as much as we can. We just try to avoid that as a friction point. And we did that very early when we started our property management business. We wanted to do it all as modern day as possible. Pay online and eliminate any possible theft from employees or just getting robbed, things like that. Do you hold each property in a separate LLC? That's a little bit complicated.
We started to. So when we first started, we actually took some advice from Gary, and we had an LLC, and we didn't put more than $1 million of property in it, right? But then what happened was we wanted a little bit. That was also because we were getting quite a few properties. It was getting kind of complicated for taxes and everything else. So and you've got to check this in your areas and all this other different things. Virginia does not have a series LLC, okay? But there's a way you can do it in Virginia. But if you have a series LLC in your area, you might want to check it out. But Virginia does not have one. And so we were able to do kind of like what a franchise would do. They create an umbrella LLC that then has all the LLCs underneath of it, okay? So we only have to do a tax return for the one LLC, and each property is in its own LLC underneath of that one. Is how we have it set up. And we also, the other thing too is we branched off from this. Like we bought a property subject to last year. We also have a joint venture in using our self-directed IRA for a property we bought in Alabama. So we've done other things too. But on the majority of our properties, that's how it's set up.
Next page. So I hope we've got you excited that, really, if Anna and I can do it, you guys can definitely do it. It does take a little bit of giving away some of your personal freedoms, but it's 100% worth it because it will give you freedom. Freedom, I'm telling you, to not have to worry about a freaking huge mortgage payment. I mean, I'm living on the water and it's nice.
Or we just take the RV and go somewhere else. Or, who knows?
So, yeah, definitely if we can do it, you guys can do it. And we encourage you to do it. And that's what we tell our RIA group members. And we talk to them about what we've done. And we want people to be successful. We love helping others to grow and become financially independent. So that's our story.
Cool.
Okay. So
Okay,
what we'll
guys.
do is we will open it up for questions.
Yeah. Okay, looks like we're caught up as far as I can tell. So guys, now's your time to be at ease and speak or forever hold your peace. So.
And I'm going to put our contact information in the chat box.
Okay.
So
Hi, hello. This is Nancy. I would like to check, is it possible to do flip over there?
Flipping in Virginia?
Flip, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
sure.
It may be faster that way instead of rental.
That's what your preference is. Our preference was to buy and hold.
Yeah.
It's flipping is definitely, you can make some, but we didn't want to create more work for ourselves. We wanted time freedom, money freedom. And so we want to fix up a property and make it into a cash flowing machine and then just let it spit out money. But when you flip, and I'm not discouraging you if that's your thing, but you really create another job for yourself because you got to find the next flip. And yeah, it pays you big dividend one time, but then you got to find the next one. So our philosophy has been to not flip, but to buy and hold. And anytime we buy, it's got a cash flow so that it pays for itself. That's been our approach. It's not to say, we're wrong or right. It's just been our approach.
Yeah. And Nancy, I will tell you, I'm probably one of the most positive people I ever meet. But this cycle we're in right now is my 5th cycle since I started investing in January 1986. The first 3 cycles I had to learn. The 4th cycle, which was the last recession, I knew exactly what to do. And quite frankly, the rest to say is history. I made, my business grew 6-fold. And I'm not saying the recession is starting today or tomorrow, although there's some early indicators. What I'm suggesting is we know it's going to happen. It's a mathematical certainty, okay? Nobody can ever have a crystal ball and tell you exactly when, but I do know this: when you know you're at the peak of a market and it feels like you're starting to head down, that is not the time to be flipping. Okay, it's a time to be picking up. It's always a good time to pick up rentals, always a good time to buy rentals. But flipping is only when you're coming out of the recession and you're heading up, and you have the safety and it's going to be a couple of years. So. And again, so I'm not saying we're going to have a recession tomorrow. I'm just telling you it is absolutely going to happen. When it happened last time in late 2007, when it hit, I knew a lot of flippers that got caught in that downturn, and they did not make the profit they thought. I was lucky because I sold my last flip July 30th of that year, and I felt like I think we're at the peak. I'm not going to flip anymore for the time being. Thank goodness I didn't, because when it hit, it dropped like a lead balloon. So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to look at the facts, look at the data, gather information, get the right, remember education plus right information plus right action gets you good results. So, it's surprising. We got Dana Truman on the line, Anna Jenkins, Rick and me and Gina all have known each other for a long time, and most of us anyways. And nobody has asked any personal questions. Like, good stories. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
There was somebody asked again about are you required to live in the house for a minimum of 1 or 2 years? The thing about that is that the lenders do have different requirements, but most of the time they're fine if it's like at about a year. Now, the other thing we did is we put them, like we were saying, we put one in my name, one in Rick's name. And so we were buying them 2 times a year, but because they were a year apart between the other person's name, you see what I'm saying? And then we got to the point where we couldn't put them in our names anymore. And so we had to, go to commercial loans because like I said, they cap you at like 4 or 5 a piece. So but they start to ask questions after the 3rd one, like, why are you moving again?
Yeah, and then the other thing that we did is after we got into commercial loans, it goes through market cycles, which is really kind of interesting. But the market cycle that we're now in is my gosh, low interest rates. So we refinanced out of some of our loans and put them into investor, Fannie Mae investor loans. So, and keeping 25% down because we had gained so much equity. So anyway, you're just 1 year is a good rule of thumb, and definitely live in the property. And we all lived in our property, but as Anna said, each lender has their own rules.
And like, for instance, we had actually even on some of those that we had put loans on, we did them for 15 years or 20 years, which now we, talked to some other people. And what you may want to do is do it for 30 years, but just pay extra. That could be too. And so then you may not be in a situation where you have a higher payment and you're stuck and COVID hits. Who knows? You don't want to create things that another person calls alligator properties, where you just are not making too much cash flow. In the way we do it, we've got a lot of cash flow, and so it's not like we're going to create those. but you know, you want to buy right, and you want to make sure that you've got some cash flow there. That's the thing.
So one of the questions that was asked, and kind of avoiding answering it because I really need to talk to Anna about it, but somebody asked, you know, will you share your shared resident addendum? And let me just say it this way, and I think we'd be willing to, but these are all individualized based on the type of property. It is not a standard addendum. It is customized down to, you know, where to park, to, you know, what location, you know, when the housekeeper's coming in, you know, what the internet connection is. It's so specific. And all I can say is I'm the lawyer that writes it, but then Anna's my lawyer that actually proofread it and make sure it sounds right and things like that. So we might be willing to share it, but again, it's very individualized to the house. And so we use a standard lease for Virginia and a standard lease for Florida, but then we customize it with this shared addendum, and each house, I can't, you know, just emphasize that it's individualized. It really is individualized from problems that we've had. So
we'll look at it, and we'll see about sharing that with Gary so you can, you know, send it. So what somebody else asked about scary and tenants destroy things and don't always pay. So I will tell you the most important thing that you can do is screening. So we do a credit check, we do a background check, and we do an eviction and rental judgment check, okay? In Virginia, because it is so tenant friendly, and you're gonna have to check your state, but we do not rent to anyone who has had an eviction or a rental judgment, because that means they know the system, especially now with the eviction moratorium. So Rick told you we manage about 100 properties or so. And through that, we only had maximum at the max time, like 4 or 5 people late a month, and through the COVID thing. And we put 2 people on payment plans, and it was mainly because their job shifted. Like one was a retired teacher, and she was a substitute teacher. So the substitute teaching stopped, but so she needed to put her rent in line with her Social Security payment. So we did a payment plan, and so that she could do that. So adjustments on that. But we only had one real problem from that entire time. It was because we adopted that tenant when we bought that quadplex, and we would have never rented to that tenant. And so at the end of their lease, we actually ended up evicting them, even through the eviction moratorium, because they were a holdover tenant. But your best thing is screening. Like I said, after that, we check with their last 2 landlord references, okay? You're also going to get their last 2 months of pay stubs, or at least their last 2 pay stubs. If they're self-employed, you need the last 2 years tax returns. If for some reason they don't have that, get copies of their bank statements. You need to know that they're making the money. If it's a traveling nurse, ask for their offer letter. You know, you want to know that they do have the income, that it's going to be there. Then if they have a pet, we actually have a third-party pet screening, petscreening.com. It is free to you. It costs them like $15 or something. It takes pictures of their pet. It actually even qualifies if they're an emotional service, or service pet, or an emotional support animal or whatever. So it'll even qualify that. Then once we have that information, we're going to do like what Rick said. We're going to interview them. And what we do is we just go through a series of questions, and it's really just verifying what's on their application and talking with them and asking them, well, why did you leave your last house? Did you have any problems with the house? Did you have any problems with the landlord? And we do that to see what type of tenants they're going to be. Because we don't want people who complain all the time, or we want somebody to take care of the house and be a good tenant. But you can learn a lot just by talking to them for 15 minutes, what type of a person they're going to be, and if they're going to, be a problem. And so that's what we do. That is going to be taking an hour or whatever that it does to go over that information, talk with that person for 15 minutes is going to save you in headaches. That's the main thing. We haven't had too many.
If you notice, guys, Anna has no gray hair. Okay. and I'm telling you, And guys, and this is, please write this down if it wasn't obvious, and then Rick and Anna would vouch for this. Actually, Rick and Anna, talk about this, the quality of the property. Like, in other words,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of landlords start off with the cheaper properties because it's affordable, they get a high, cap rates, but what kind of properties did you start off with, like the character of them, the nature
Right.
of them?
So, and I told this to Gary. We were talking last night about rental properties, things like this. And Rick and I set out, okay, yes, you're going to make more cash flow if you have your C and D units or whatever, but you're also going to have more problems. So we only bought houses that we would live in, meaning that we would live in the neighborhoods that we felt safe in and all of that. Because, and if you looked at our properties, we put in granite countertops, we put in nice furniture. We don't just put in grandma's old furniture and stuff. We want better quality tenants. And that's also why we did so well through COVID, because, we don't have poor quality tenants in any of our units. Now, I will say we do have some that are less expensive, like even some 1-bed, 1-baths and things like that, but they were screened well, but they're also not in bad, horrible areas. And we don't even manage any of those, is my point. If I'm not going to go there and I don't feel safe going there after dark, to inspect the property, we're not going to manage it. It's not worth it because it will bring you problems. And we tell all of our owners, and I've fired owners before, if they're not going to take care of their house, I'm not going to manage a property for them. We have our own properties, but if we have other owners that aren't going to repair things or they're not going to maintain their property, I'm just not going to do it. I've fired many people, and they come back and they're like, okay, I really want you to do this. I managed 4 properties for her. And I said, well, are you going to fix your properties? And she said, yes, I will. And I said, then I'll work with you. But if not, I'm not going to do it. Don't need that headache. Don't need those bad tenants that come with those bad properties.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Melanie, you know Diego Corzo in your Market Center, right?
Oh, yes. I've talked to him at length about this.
Yep. So he's, we're in the same mastermind group together, and he started out doing exactly this, house hacking, slightly different model, but same principle, and it's a great way to acquire nice properties and build up some cash flow long term. And, and Nancy, back to your question earlier, buying a nice home, but instead of flipping it, do what Rick and Anna have done and what Diego does, and be creative and expand the income potential for the property, because it's technically single family home. When you bought it, it's in a nice neighborhood with other single family homes, so it's going to hold value and increase in value just like the rest of the neighborhood, right? So in any case, lots of valuable lessons here tonight, guys. I tell you what, the screening when it comes to rentals, I tell you that, if you look at Rick and I see, I said in the beginning that this was the boys club and Anna was somewhere else in the house. The truth is that Rick and I are in a doghouse. That's what's really good. But we both got the gray, right? See all that from stuff in the past, and life is precious. Every day is precious, every moment. And get the right properties, get the right tenants, get the good rents, okay? And I promise you much greater long-term success than trying to do a lot of, easy, cheap, fast stuff. It comes back and bites you in the rear end. I mean, I've done that early myself, and I can tell you it's a fact. Better properties make a big difference, and better tenants. So
there's a couple other questions in here. Somebody asked how many properties we own. Well, I'll tell you this: we own properties in 3 states, because they also say don't diversify, but don't diversify over 3 to 5. And I actually totally believe that. You don't want to get too crazy. So we own properties in 3 states, 6 counties, and a lot of doors. How about that? So somebody else asked about how many reserves. So they say, okay, that you should have probably about 6 months of mortgage reserves for each property, is what they say. So that's how I would say it. And it goes through here.
yeah. Well, think about it, guys.
How do we charge the security deposit? We do everything electronically, like we said, through our Buildium property management software. So they can pay that online.
Yeah. And by the way, compare some of the numbers tonight with some of the numbers on traditional rentals. I mean, we're looking at, 25, 30, 35,000 net per year on essentially what started off as a single family home turned into 2 or 3 units. versus a traditional rental. I mean, it's you're way ahead of the game. It's easier. You know, you're more in control. You're not trying to manage hundreds of units, which what I was doing. I had hundreds of properties and thousands of tenants, and it was crazy sometimes. This is easier. Okay, it's just easier. I mean, I'm here right now at this beautiful home. The last one you saw, you know, right on the water. We go paddleboarding, kayaking. I take one of the bikes, go to the beach. And it was all done in a few short years. It didn't take long at all to do this, guys. You know, so real people, real stories, and that can be you. In fact, that's what I'm here for. So my goal is obviously help you be in that position. So, and I'll bring next month, end of the month, I'll be bringing on another former agent of mine, Christine. Okay, Christina Hyatt, and then one of her clients, Benino, we call him Benny. He owns 8 restaurants, and he's moving up to be creative and buy a property he's going to be using for Airbnb. It's got 14 beds in it. So that's the end of April, and I'll keep doing this every month. Old clients of mine, just to keep bringing it home, driving home the key points. And it's usually quality and discipline and persistence and just getting the information, learning constantly. So Rick and Anna, let me ask you this. What would you say, how much time do you spend on a weekly basis reading or learning or going to conferences, things like that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. I listen to podcasts every single morning, and and then also we're a part of Financial Friends. We were going to at least, which they go cruising. We love to cruise. And so we would probably go to at least 3 or 4 major events each year before COVID happened. But Rick, do you want to add to that?
It's a lot of podcasts. It's a lot of Zoom calls like this. And then, you know, Anna's my sounding board. When I hear something, I'll immediately forward her that podcast, or I'll say, you know, listen to this. And so we're constantly, it also helps really to have somebody to be your partner in life to do this with, because we're just so on the same page of wanting to be financially free. And so if one person's not on board or is not there, you know, mentally, it can be a challenge. And so I'm blessed to have Anna, but you know, and being able to be our sounding board. But to answer your question, we are constantly learning. Every 7 days a week, I know I'm listening to at least, because I'm at the gym for an hour and a half, and I'm listening, consuming podcasts in at least an hour every day.
Yeah.
So somebody was asking like how we weed out people, especially like Facebook Marketplace. They don't read the advertising, even though we say it's a room for rent the first thing. Facebook actually doesn't allow you to advertise a room anymore. You have to choose an apartment. So I just put in the chat what I say to every single person that asks me about it. This is a room for rent with shared, it could be for the private bath. This is a room for rent with shared bath for one person with no animals. Does this work for you? So I got it out there right away. And that weeds out a ton of people because it's somebody looking for a cheap place, you know, instead of a hotel. And they'll be like, oh, well, I have, you know, it's me and my husband. And like, nope, sorry. You know, and somebody else asked in the interview, do we tell them that it won't work? Yeah, we're not going to waste time. If we think that it's not going to work, we'll say, hey, I'm sorry, this just isn't going to good fit, you know. So we'll definitely do that. Somebody recommend a mastermind group. I'll tell you, one of the ones I really like, if you are into buy and hold properties, is Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time. I like him, but he does a financial news every day, and he's really down to earth. But
and Jeff, if you haven't already, I mean, give me a call, email me, because our team, the Global Investor Agent team, is a mastermind. We're investor agents in 23 different states. And by the end of the week, we'll be in 24 different states. And this is what we do. We invest, we work with investors. And I mean, you're welcome to have a discovery conversation. Not everybody gets in. It's not for everybody. It's for specific types of people who want to learn, invest, and work with investors. And that's pretty much it in the show. We're a learning-based group, but we meet one-on-one. We meet weekly doing this kind of stuff. We meet monthly on an internal team call. And boy, you should see the numbers. Okay. So hopefully you know how to get a hold of me. I think you do anyway. So, yeah.
Somebody asked if we do a video interview. We actually do it over the phone, but I know other people who have done a video interview and have actually done video interviews with the other roommates too, but we don't do that. And then somebody asked about homeowners insurance. On your long-term and your mid-term rentals, you're just going to get a regular renter homeowners insurance policy. You know, if your short-term rentals, you know, because you have furnishings, different things like that in there, you may want to get a short-term rental policy. So, because then now your furniture is in there and things like that. So somebody asked about homeowners insurance.
We do require renter's insurance too.
Yes, we do. Even on those midterm stays, because it has a liability part to that. So if one of them hits the other, who knows, there's their own insurance covers it. So.
Do you guys, I'll think about this for Teresa. One thing, I've used Farmers Mutual over the years. I mean, with hundreds of properties, never had a problem with them. But I found out if you have a good insurance broker, they can find the regional size companies that will work well for you. Sometimes the big national outfits are just way too expensive, you know? But so Rick and Ed, do you guys have a particular insurer that you like to use regularly or?
Well, we started because we started doing those subject twos and those are in trusts. And so Farm Bureau will actually, they don't give you much hassle for LLCs and trusts and things like that. So they're kind of good. But before that, all of our properties were in USAA because I'm military. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
You guys get ready for dessert? We're gonna have dessert. That's what. This is the way I always finish those. I always thought I'm hungry. I am. I always get hungry when I do these. I just have to have something, ice cream or something. So, in any case, hey, real quick, just show of hands, hand raise or a chat. Do you guys like this, having like Rick and Anna on, giving you real life? I mean, just the real thing, you know? Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're some of the nicest people on the planet. I mean, Anna and I have met through coaching years ago with Dana Truman. That was probably 13 some odd years ago, maybe, I don't know. Instantly best friends. And I met Rick a few years later, and he was in one of my beta programs early on. And then we just became, I mean, like best friends. I just, you know, I don't want to do without him. So you guys are getting a inside scoop and some pretty cool people. And we'll have more down the road too. So I like this too. It's fun for me and easier for me, and I get to relax and be myself, and you guys get to get lots of good information. So, okay, going once, going twice. Oh, Anna, do you want to put up your slide with the, oh, did she already log off? I think she logged off.
No, she's
No,
right
I'm still here, but I put it in the chat. So you guys can
Well,
see
put it in the
that
chat.
contact information. I put it in the chat
Okay, good. Okay,
earlier.
Cool. Yeah. All right, well, let that go on for a second. Let's see, who do we see here? Alexandra, how are you? Good. Did you like this?
Yes, thank you so much. Great information. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for everything.
Hey, good ideas.
Good ideas.
Yeah, for all your clients, think about this, guys. Even if you're not doing this yourself, think about your clients and how they can use this. This is another alternative, you know, to traditional rentals and flipping and stuff like that. I mean, it's like a combination of Airbnb and house hacking and, you know, building a rental portfolio. It's really creative. It's, you know, almost recession proof. You know, if you think about what's happened, I mean, they've been thriving through the last year. I mean, lots of potential, getting good properties, good interest rates, good mortgages. Oh, if you're concerned about mortgages, I know this report came out last week about FHA only wanting to have 7% of the portfolio to be non-owner occupied properties. Guys, that's just one source of lending. Commercial is a whole different world. We don't have those problems in commercial. I only had two properties on finance with Fannie Mae. The rest I did commercial because it was just easier. I paid them off faster, made more money. You can even do conventional non-conforming. That's another thing you can do back on the other side. So there's always alternatives and options. And I think what they did is they're going to now, I believe, spawn another sector of the lending industry to deal with small investors. So I don't see it as an ending. I see it as a beginning. I mean, this is what entrepreneurs do. We just take what the world gives us. We take the lemon and we make lemonade. So I'd say keep an eye out for another sector of the industry getting ready to spawn as a result of this. But again, you still got conventional non-conforming and you got commercial and easier, faster, local community banks, okay? Keep that in mind, community banks. So, okay.
So I do want to say one thing. I guess I should have put a plug in for us too. So we
Yes.
do have our monthly Fred Rhea meeting because somebody asked about, things to do. So where we have different speakers come in for our Fred Rhea meeting. So if you go to the Fred Rhea website that was part of the contacts also, you can join in from anywhere now. So we actually had Michael Zuber on a couple months ago and we've got, now it's able to get big people. So Gary's actually spoke at our meeting before too, so.
Yeah. Hey guys, by the way, that's Anna, thank you for bringing this up. Now think about it. For everybody that's got a gig. So what I do, Anna and Rick, is on my global investor agent team, half the agents have a global investor group, an investor group in their area. So if you guys would log in, I encourage you to log into Rick and Anna's, it's the second Thursday of the month. Second Thursday of the month. Yeah. So and Anna, where can they find that, the link to register?
It's fredria.com, but
So Teresa, Shirley, I mean, log in, join in. Like Anna said, I was a speaker there years ago. But look at the format and get some ideas, okay? And look to see where you can learn. Could be a good source of there. It is fredria.com. Okay. Well, if you guys let us, we'll keep talking all night. But we'll see you next week. We're still going to meet on the Monday after Christmas, or Monday after Easter, excuse me. Then after that, Gina Hansen's going to do the disc profile for everybody, okay? And then 2 weeks after that, I've got Christina and Benny on talking about what they're doing with bigger properties for Airbnb and stuff like that. And basically growing from little duplexes and flips up to the bigger stuff. And Christina was one of my very first agents years ago, and she routinely juggles 10 to 15 transactions on a monthly basis. I mean, she's got like, I think $200,000 in the commission pipeline right now as you speak. So I think you'll enjoy speaking with her, hearing her speak. So, okay, going once, going twice. You guys take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families. Have a safe rest of the week, and we'll see you next. And for those of you who haven't called me or talked to me, remember, I get lonely. Please set up a call. Please set up a call. You know what I'm talking
Getting ready, I'm getting ready, Gary.
All right.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Anna.
Okay, guys, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.